Hello and welcome to my 2020 Game of the Year Awards, brought to you live from within Dreams. I'm Damien Marr and thank you for joining me as we celebrate my favourite characters, moments and designs from the games I played in 2020. First up, Glory to Mankind, or in this case, to this one particular android whose story is a crucial element within the entirety of 2017's Nier Automata. Nier Automata has one of the most unique narratives I've ever experienced, and the fact that it's part of a video game which asks you as the player to partake in the story makes it even more impactful. A huge part of Automata's narrative power comes through how it challenges the perspective biases which it sets up with the player throughout the game. My understanding and perspective of the world at the end was hugely different to my understanding and perception of it at the beginning. One of the key pieces to that shift was discovering Android Unit, Yorha A2's story and history, and what it meant for 2B and 9S, the characters we'd been with for the entirety of the game up until that point.
You just die already!
Our introduction to A2 as a character paints her as a mysterious, almost villainous figure. But upon learning why she is and continues to act alone, we start to see the world she inhabits in a different light. On the surface, A2 isn't a likable character.
I didn't ask for help.
She's curt, but almost endearingly so.
Whatever.
She has this air of apathy, while simultaneously holding on to a deep caring for others.
Look, just stay out of my way.
She's also a rarely powerful character, with her gameplay being very action-focused alongside her graceful movement. And, as someone who loves mobility in games, her dash alongside Nier Automata's sliding is euphoric. Dreams is a very special piece of software. It allows players to create anything their heart desires with the use of a PS4 controller. Or it allows people to find and play or watch or hear thousands of incredibly original and diverse creations.
I really want that.
Unfortunately, Dreams has a couple problems when it comes to public perception. Those who aren't creative look at it and see it as this intimidating creative suite, even though considering how much Dreams is capable of, a lot of the creative process has been simplified and is actually quite user-friendly for new users. And then, on the other side of the spectrum, it struggles to connect to the mainstream AAA audience. My Twitter feed is filled with many active dreamers, and what they're able to create is mind-boggling. But the problem is that I don't think Sony is giving Dreams even half the marketing budget it needs to make people see what those of us who are actively engaging in the Dreamiverse see, with our minds blown every day. I love puzzle games, and so I started crafting a simplistic game where you have 4 different jump heights. I then saw that the community jam theme at the time was sports, so I reworked it into the Super Hurdles game, and I found it so enjoyable to watch this game materialize before my very eyes. And then you go dream surfing and you find what other people far more creative than yourself are making, and for a game that feels like a peanut's worth of space on your hard drive, you get this huge library of fascinating creations. After the rhythm-themed community jam, I found myself spending weeks engaging with all those rhythm games. and the creativity you find within the one-button-only creations from a separate community jam. And then you just discover the high-quality creations that come from creators who spend a long time polishing their dreams. This is all without mentioning Media Molecule's own creations and the enjoyable and interactive tutorials.
That shows you how powerful these tools really are.
Dreams is one of those games that distracted me from other mainstream titles throughout the year because I wanted to create the thing I'd envisioned, or I'd gone down a rabbit hole of games from a certain dreamer. Dreams is Game of the Year, but also too incredible to be Game of the Year at the same time.
What's the catch?
No catch. You did something nice for me, and I wanted to return the favor.
Oh, right.
When I play role-playing games, depending on the character, I don't usually go for the in-your-face dialogue options, and that just doesn't align with me personally. But then you get Cassandra, who is capable of anything those in ancient Greece ask of her.
By Aphrodite, Cleo better get back here soon.
Why call on the gods when you have one of their messengers at your service?
And so I found myself reading these dialogue options where Cassandra just oozed this confidence, which wasn't misplaced arrogance. She associated herself with the gods, or to being the closest thing one could find to a god on earth at the time in that moment.
Here I am. God's blessing and all.
And instead of this trait giving her this unnecessary pompousness, I found it rounding out her character in a way which truly helped to define her godlike stature and personality. It didn't take away from her character, it added to it.
I've come in response to a call for help. You missed.
My favorite protagonist in the Assassin's Creed franchise, Ezio Auditore da Firenze, was the first assassin we saw actively helping his family, friends, and community in a more tangible way than just assassinating the big bad.
You found it! That's the necklace! That shark put up a good fight. He must have liked it.
And so, to have Cassandra embody this Herculean, god-on-earth personality felt so true to how she presented, where she came from, and what I wanted from her within the world of Assassin's Creed. And then you take into account Milisanti Mahut's wonderful performance, vocally and visually.
Me? Kill? Steal? Arrange protests?
Yes.
It does sound like me. But it was someone else this time.
And Cassandra rarely does become the next best thing to a Greek god.
You need a god. I'm the next best thing. Oh, you're a live one.
I've never played the original Final Fantasy VII, outside of unavoidably hearing about a huge plot point involving Aerith. I knew nothing about it. And then the remake came along in all of its stunningly stylish and beautiful glory, and I, like many others, saw this as as good an opportunity as any to find out for myself why this game is so beloved.
Maybe you're not okay. Ah, he lives. Finally awake, are we?
You're...
Aerith. It's Aerith.
We briefly meet Aerith at the start. She's this charming, friendly flower girl who momentarily crosses paths with Cloud early on.
just my luck.
I heard that, you know.
Cloud continues to go on his adventure alongside Tifa and Barrett, but I will admit that at the time of playing it, Dreams was commanding my attention, and so my concentration was split.
Anyway, let's get going.
Cue Chapter 8, as Cloud comes falling into a pile of flowers in a church.
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
Don't worry about it.
Aerith becomes a mainline character in the plot. She is a gentle soul, but one with a lot of fight within her. She is the most caring character you'll find. She has a youthful playfulness while having a very mature understanding of the world and people's place within it. Aerith as a character demanded my attention and brought my complete focus back to the magic that is Final Fantasy VII. Aerith's theme also forms a wonderful part of what is very much my favorite gaming soundtrack of the year.
So, you had enough yet?
No, I don't believe that I have.
When I spoke about Cassandra earlier, I mentioned her incredible physique, but with Aerith, especially alongside characters like Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett, you might mistake her low physicality as a weakness, and you'd probably get hit over the head with a chair for thinking that. But in gameplay, Aerith's supporting role was invaluable in so many of the fights she partook in. To match her delicate frame and running style, she has this charming little sidestep, but the way she channels magic is so graceful and elegant that it manages to look strong. And because of her character build's affinity with materia, Aerith becomes an absolute magical powerhouse. I cannot go on talking about this wonderful character without mentioning Brianna White's absolutely wonderful voice acting. In a year with so much visible irritation and hate and discomfort, the way in which Brianna brings warmth and love and stability through Aerith is the perfect tonic, and a major reason for why Aerith Gainsborough is my favorite character of the year.
My hero.
Never a dull moment with you.
That a compliment?
Let's just get this out the way from the get-go. I know practically bupkiss about level design. And now that that's out the way, let's talk about Dishonored 2.
Why didn't I see it coming? What was I doing during that time? Pretending to listen at court, ruling through an army of bureaucrats, waiting for the next chance to get free of Dunwall Tower. Well, now I'm free. If only I could go back.
Knowing nothing about the intricacies of what makes a level engaging or well-made, I was constantly engrossed by the layout of Dishonored 2's missions. Playing the game non-lethally, trying to not get seen at all during any level, I found myself going step by step through each mission, breaking them down into these mini bite-sized puzzle nuggets. The levels are laid out in such a way that each decision you make as a player requires consideration and careful planning, figuring out how to methodically quell each guard without being seen, and then hiding the unconscious body out of sight. To add to that, Arcane then found ways to make each mission definably unique. In one level, you're traveling across 3 different sections to get to your target in a high-tech mansion, avoiding guard robots who can't be knocked unconscious.
Running search protocol.
To a level where you have to weave yourself back and forth through time to progress unseen. To a level with rolling sandstorms occasionally blocking the view of everyone in the area. I admit I tried so many times to get into the original Dishonored, but failed each time. When it came to Dishonored 2, I was in the perfect mood to methodically and systematically work my way through each of the meticulously designed levels. And to finish the game, having not taken a single life, was both a wonderful palate cleanse and extremely rewarding. So, I might as well give Dishonored 2 my achievement of the year as well. To complete a game like that without killing anyone is something I'm very proud of.
Seeing this place and these people, I can feel my perspective changing. How will I be different after this?
I was in the crowd that felt like 2013's The Last of Us didn't need a sequel. So I admit I do kind of feel a bit sad that many who did want Part 2 hated it, while I, someone who didn't feel it was necessary, found it to be an absolute masterpiece.
Do you remember the joke? What is the downside to eating a clock? It's time-consuming.
That's so dumb.
The theme of part 2 was hate. Something we can confidently say it achieved within and without the game. When Nier Automata asks you to experience its story from a different perspective, it's fine because the character with the other perspective has won you over already. When The Last of Us does it, it's deeply uncomfortable.
Oh, easy.
I managed to go into the game completely unspoiled, so I was expecting to spend time with Ellie for the vast majority of the game. But when the narrative gets thrown completely on its head around the halfway mark, when you get asked to experience Joel's murderer Abby's perspective, it's jarring. I can remember the exact day of the week when I played the first Abby segment, because the entire Wednesday afterwards, I was just stuck in my head trying to rationalize it. I could see what Naughty Dog were trying to do, but it just wasn't something I could so easily just buy into. I kept thinking that this had just killed the momentum that Ellie's storyline had crescendoed into. I kept telling myself that there was no way we would spend the entire 3 days we just spent with Ellie now with Abby. There's a part late in Abby Day 1 where she gets knocked out, and I thought, here we go, she's going to wake up again on Day 3 and we can quickly get back to Ellie's story. But no. We stick with Abby through the entire 3-day arc. We see her fears.
Shit.
Her courage and her ability to care. And so my thinking started to shift from how soon until we get back to Ellie to what happens when we do get back to Ellie. So much time has been spent on getting us to empathize with this character we don't really want to empathize with. A character who's going to come face to face with a protagonist who we deeply love, who has been set on a tragic downward spiral of a path by the exact character Naughty Dog have been trying to get us to at least understand. So when we do reach the end of Abby Day 3 and we find ourselves stuck in this very awkward situation of not knowing what Naughty Dog are going to ask of us when these two women come head to head,
Toss your weapon!
we're met with a gameplay sequence I and many other players didn't want to engage with. We remain in control as Abby and have a boss fight with our beloved protagonist Ellie. And it's terrifying because we know what state of mind Ellie is in. But unfortunately, this is also the sequence where Abby, with the use of a single word, prevents me from taking the final step towards completely empathizing with her. Both characters ultimately survive, and we find ourselves back in the comfortable perspective of a mellowed Ellie, but an Ellie who still needs closure. And so, after some tragic pushing from Tommy, Ellie goes back to hunting down Abby for the last time. The final confrontation sees a wounded Ellie forcing a fight against a weakened and beaten down Abby. This isn't what we want. Or should I say, this isn't what I want. I legitimately grit my teeth throughout the entire fight, not because it was mechanically demanding, but because of the emotional weight behind what was happening. Fortunately, at her darkest moment, Ellie remembers her final conversation with Joel and how she wanted to try to forgive him. And so, very much to my relief, she lets Abby go. For many, this is controversial. It's a revenge tale where the character seeking revenge decides not to take it. It's incomplete, it's unfulfilling. But for me, it was perfect. Her path to revenge had taken away everything from her. And this little moment of clarity meant that we didn't completely lose her to the darkness. There was still light in there. The light we fell in love with in the first place.
You're welcome, kiddo.
After the credits rolled, I paced around the house for an hour trying to process all of it. In the weeks that followed, I listened to several spoiler casts. I watched some of my favorite Let's Players go through parts of the game, seeing how some could never be won over by Abby, seeing how some warmed to her fairly quickly, seeing how disappointed some were by the ending, and seeing how others loved it. The Last of Us Part 2 asks a lot of questions from the player, and depending on how you find yourself answering, you might hate it and not be moved by it at all. Or you might be like me and see what it was aiming to achieve and view it as a masterpiece for how it went about achieving it, even though you can still acknowledge its flaws.
What is wrong with you?
You should see your face right now.
I haven't even touched on how gorgeous the game is, how amazing the animations are, how subtle the music is, how terrifying the sound design is. Or how I spent 10 minutes marveling over Ellie's backwards walking animation. Never mind how I think Ashley Johnson has the best performance of the year.
I would never... Fuck, this is awkward.
I'm messing with you, man.
I didn't feel like The Last of Us needed a part 2. But based on how I responded to it, it's my game of the year.
I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Today's another day to find you.
I've personally had a minor gripe with the layout of open world games for the past few years. My favorite open worlds are the ones where the story takes you to every corner of the map.
Come here and fight!
Ghost of Tsushima benefits from the shape of the island upon which it takes place. It is narrow and long. I love that as you go from story point to story point, you end up circling your way down to the bottom of the island. You then follow the narrative all the way up the coast to the northern tip, and then loop your way down again. By structuring the island and narrative in this cohesive way, all the side quests and activities are for the most part en route during your adventure. This means that you naturally complete all points of interest on the map without having to excessively go out of your way to do so. It makes the experience fluid and satisfying, and even though there are systems that prevent you from missing collectibles, you don't really get much opportunity to miss out on anything. Nothing ever felt tacked on or superfluous. While it might sound like my gaming moment of the year should be the ending to The Last of Us Part 2, or any moment Aerith is on screen, or that awesome moment in AC Odyssey where Cassandra looks really dapper, my favorite moment was actually the side mission in my 2019 Game of the Year's first major narrative DLC, The Foundation. Control's swift platform mission sees Jesse stranded on a moving platform, dodging signposts and walls and obstacles, shooting down the hiss while in motion, all to a hypnotic soundtrack with synth and jazz elements. It's weird, it's fun, it's high octane, it's delightfully controlled. and I'll happily listen to that music on loop for a long time.
Wait, what? We're back? Did that really just happen? It felt like a dream. Or maybe a bad movie.
After entering lockdown, the Japanese AAA games market decided that now was a good time to hit us with hyper-attractive thirst traps. Square Enix gave us beautifully realized versions of the likes of Tifa, Cloud, and Sephiroth. Capcom, on the other hand, gave us beautifully remade RE Engine looks at Carlos and the indomitable Jill Valentine.
But we need help. My men cannot do this alone.
All right. I'm in.
Capable of single-handedly.
I'm fine.
Personal space. Okay, I get it.
Dealing with zombies, spiders, and the ever-relentless nemesis. Jill's calm processing of extremely weird situations alongside her super cop abilities and training as a member of STARS makes her a character I would gladly spend many hours more with. And why she finds herself, with apologies to A2, Cassandra, Aerith, and Artemis, at the top of the pile.
Good riddance.
Back in 2017, I played Pyre from Supergiant Games, and it became one of my favorite games of all time. Engrossing, highly original, and rarely fun to play, I was now on the Supergiant bandwagon. I now need to stop talking about Pyre before I can't stop. So I was excited in 2018 when they announced Hades coming to early access. A roguelike where you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, constantly trying to escape the underworld. I initially planned to wait for Hades' full release so as to experience it in its complete glory. So, a week after it was announced, I got it in early access. During the early days of early access, while amazing, I never managed to completely dig my teeth into it as much as I'd like. So when the game got a full release this year, I had the perfect opportunity to continue where I left off. But now, in its completed state.
The often patient Zagreus appears to take repeated deaths in stride, and so, here comes another one for him. Oh, damn it!
So much had changed since I'd last played. Hades' house could now be customized and upgraded visually. Characters like Nyx had new artwork. Sisyphus, Eurydice, and Patroclus could now be found en route, providing valuable assistance. New variants to the game's weapons could be unlocked. Meg could now occasionally have her sister's guard Tartarus.
Megara couldn't make it Red Blood, so it's me and you.
And this all without mentioning the story.
I cannot fully understand my daughter's choices, such as what she saw in your gloom-filled father to have eloped with him.
Whether you succeed or fail in your escape attempt, the story moves forward. Each character you encounter is aware of your progress, to a point.
These wretched things harassing you throughout that underworld just won't give up, will they?
And so even after 100 escape attempts, I'm still finding and uncovering new interactions and stories. This extends to gameplay and the in-game resources. Maybe things have stagnated in a particular run, but you end up getting enough resources to progress with customizing the house, or upgrading a weapon, fulfilling a minor prophecy, getting assistance from Nyx's mirror, or progressing a relationship. And therein lies Hades' beautifully designed gameplay loop. While on an escape attempt, high-speed action is intertwined with the building of friendships and relationships with a wide pantheon of gods from Olympus.
You overstepped your bounds with me, nephew.
You then return to Hades' house to make yourself stronger and progress your relationships with those there at the house.
You want more pets? I got more pets here, boy.
It's not live, die, repeat. It's live, die, continue. And then there's the variety in gameplay. Zagreus has 6 weapons to choose from. Those 6 all have 3 other alternate aspects that can be unlocked, meaning there are 24 different weapon aspects. On each run, you get different boons from a selection of the 8 different Olympian gods.
You ready for this, Zach? Now here's a good one, courtesy of me.
And Chaos also offers various boons for either your attack, special ability, your dash, your alternate fire, or your call.
Optimus! Nowhere to hide from me!
You did my own kit against me.
There are also daedalus hammers throughout to alter how your current weapon plays, and keepsakes to help get boons from a particular god.
Do not forget that changing strategy can be the key to victory, cousin.
Meaning that between the weapon and upgrades you have, the gods you encounter, and the resources you decide to collect on your way, even though you're going through the same 4 areas on each escape attempt, with the rooms being randomized each time, no run is ever the same. There's always some element to keep the game fresh without it ever becoming overwhelming. The fact that the small development team at Supergiant can create a game this polished, this continually fresh, and this infallible is why it also has to be my game of the year.
This is a favorite song of mine, and perhaps yours.
And why Supergiant Games is my studio of the year.
The one thing better than singing, hon, is singing with somebody you love.
Subtlety isn't something one would associate with Assassin's Creed, especially not when looking at the violent depiction of the 9th century Viking invasion of Britain. Yet, it's the subtlety within Assassin's Creed Valhalla's design that I'll remember most fondly. I was intimidated by Assassin's Creed Odyssey's size, and so it's a good thing that I didn't know how big Valhalla was, because this impressively dauntingly large game ended up dwarfing my experience with Cassandra. But this is also why I think the arc narrative structure works so well. Each major supporting character from each area gets their own story, which fleshes them out and makes them more memorable.
Was blood spilled? No. We took Wareham without resistance.
The detective work required in Grantbridgeshire, the decisions about leadership I had to make in Lincolnshire and Nottinghamshire, all forced me to really acquaint myself with the characters at play, while cities like London and Jorvik gave me feelings of classic Assassin's Creed games. Then there's Eivor's character.
Stay back!
That's a bread knife, my lord. Do you mean to batter me?
Which evolves subtly throughout the course of the journey, going from mysterious to practically wise in one of the most complexly designed protagonists in the series, in a far less bombastic way than the likes of Cassandra or Ezio.
With flattery like that, how could I possibly turn you down?
The user interface is far more approachable, with the map icons being far more subtle than Origins and Odyssey. And then there's the gentle references throughout the world to origins of tales like Winnie the Pooh, Alice in Wonderland, and Robin Hood and His Merry Men.
That's the last time I go chasing rabbits, especially white ones.
But my favorite part of Valhalla is ultimately how it spreads elements of its core narrative across different plot lines and interpretations, which come together in the end to tell a cohesive and fascinating Assassin's Creed story, which has deep implications for its world going forward. To wrap up this video, I felt like it would be good to give shoutouts to the games that brought us together this year. In these weird COVID lockdown times, positive that we have had emerge has been more time to spend playing online games with friends. In April, I managed to play Modern Warfare. A big thank you to Brian for you know why. Fall Guys came out in August, and I finally managed to play a game with Jericho in what feels like the first time in years. And then there's Among Us. I've managed to play Among Us with the most kinda funny best friends I've played a game with since probably 2016, when Overwatch came out.
Oh! That was blue.
Oh my god.
Damien.
Already?
Damien, how was it to kill Mike right in front of me? Because I just saw blue kill brown and then run.
And that is it for my 2020 Personal Game of the Year Awards, brought to you live from within Dreams. It's been really fun to animate this whole thing from within there and then take all the capture and then edit this whole thing together. This is actually my longest editing project ever, so yeah, it's pretty cool. So thank you, Media Molecule, for first of all creating Dreams. And thank you to every other developer or character or voice actor or performer that I've mentioned who's been a wonderful part in keeping the entertainment going during 2020. It was a really weird year, and it's not getting any less weird, I suppose. Well, it kind of is. We'll see. And so if you have got this far in the video, wow, first of all, thank you for watching, or, you know, just for skipping through to the end and avoiding all spoilers and deciding this is the only part you really want to watch. So, well, you do you. But anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see what I have in store for us next time. Thank you. Cheers.